Now we'll be joined by Chris Peters. I will add him to the stream now. Mr. Peters, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
We are good. Brendan, you want to kick it off?
I will. So, Chris, thank you for joining us. The first question we got is, with many of us waiting for the NHL hockey to return, college hockey is back. For fans that are new to the college atmosphere, which I'm sure a lot are right now, which teams are must watch, and how has COVID impacted the scheduling this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, like everything, it's impacting college hockey every single day. We have had some games. The Big Ten has probably been the league so far that's been least interrupted. So that allows you to see a team like the University of Michigan, which is probably one of the top teams in the country right now in terms of both talent and then obviously the name recognition that comes with the University of Michigan. And they have one of the best freshman classes I think we've seen in really anywhere at any time. I mean, they have 3 guys that could be top 10 picks in this year's draft. They've got Brendan Brisson, who was a first-round pick of the Vegas Golden Knights last year, Thomas Bordeleau, who was a second-rounder of the Sharks. Those are the guys that have really stepped up so far, but the 3 draft-eligible players to watch are Kent Johnson, Matty Beniers, and a real legitimate number 1 overall prospect in Owen Power, who's a top defenseman and really could be the first pick in the draft. So that's probably the first team. And then what we're looking forward to here in the next couple of weeks, next week actually, the NCHC, which is the conference that has like North Dakota and Denver and Minnesota Duluth. They're supposed to open essentially a bubble for the first 3 weeks of their season, and we are hopeful that they'll get to that point in Omaha on December 1st and play. Basically, each team would play 10 games while they're in that bubble. And so that could be a huge thing for college hockey. But North Dakota, Denver, 2 of the best teams in the country. I think, Minnesota Duluth they won 2 national championships and then were, poised to potentially compete for a 3rd last year. But, obviously everything got shut down. So they've lost quite a few players from their most recent team, most notably Scott Prunovich, who won the Hobey Baker last year and signed his first pro deal with the St. Louis Blues. But that's a team that certainly is worth keeping an eye on as well. So there are a lot of different things that we're kind of keeping an eye on. Harvard and the ECAC, all the Ivy League teams, Harvard, Cornell, Princeton, Brown. They're all Yale. They are not going to play this season, so that's really unfortunate. A lot of those teams are seeing players enter the transfer portal. So we've got Union and RPI are another 2 schools that have decided not to play, and so the ECAC is essentially down to 4 teams in that conference, and already we've seen 2 of those teams delay their seasons because of coronavirus. So it is unfortunate that we're going to have to continue to deal with this, but that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, like you said, everybody's going through this. But another team we want to look at is Penn State. They came in ranked number 9. That's the highest they've ever been ranked. They start the season 0-3. They lose to number 11 ranked Minnesota and fall yesterday to number 14 ranked Wisconsin. They play Wisconsin, I think, at 6 o'clock today. Is it a must win with a shortened season and Penn State having all these high hopes?
It's still early, and I think it's you kind of have to be patient, and I think we all have to give everybody a little bit of leeway. Nothing's really normal in this time, but I think that it's been a disappointing start, and unfortunately for Penn State, it's also been a really tough start for their football team. So they're just looking for some good news, but right now the Nittany Lions, what I've noticed in the games I've seen, like in their game specifically last night, they vastly outshot the Wisconsin Badgers, and so they prove that they can compete and they can skate with those teams, and in some ways even be the better team. But they've kind of been unlucky to run against really solid goaltending. And I think the University of Minnesota team that they played in the first weekend of their season was just simply the better team. And Minnesota, absolutely another team that people should be keeping an eye on for this season because they look really solid. But for Penn State, I think what they really need to figure out is who's going to be their number 1 goaltender. I don't think that that's been solved yet, and that's going to be a key thing. They had Peyton Jones for 4 years, where he was able to kind of be the guy that carried the mail for them in net, and he's gone now. So they're trying to figure out which of their current goaltenders is the right one. They have offensive firepower. That is not a huge concern. But at this point, I think, yeah, absolutely. Just to get some positive vibes in the program, you certainly want to win. I don't think it's a must win, but it's certainly a game that you got to get some positivity going in the program. And it would be one that would be nice to have.
Yeah, we were talking about it. They outshot them, 52-20 something, Brennan?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It comes to the point where they look like a team that if they get any type of puck luck in their next game, they might be able to get on a little bit of a roll. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, so another team, LIU, is in their first inaugural season. They got their first win in overtime. It was a crazy game. And who are some players to look out for on that squad? And what do you think about the program in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to say in terms of, players to watch because so many of these guys were kind of late in the game. They were looking for that first college opportunity. They managed to get some transfers that really helped them. But, I think for LIU, just to go on the team in general, I think what they have is they have a really good head coach in Brett Riley. And when the team was announced that it was going to happen, there was a lot of skepticism, me included. Like, how are they going to pull this off? They basically had 4 months to build a roster when so many schools had already recruited. So for that whole thing, it was kind of, it was the way that it came together and how quickly it came together was shocking. And to win their first game I think they were the first team to win their first game as a program since Robert Morris University did and that I believe was in the 15 or 16 years ago. So, I mean, that's a pretty impressive feat in itself to beat Holy Cross. But one of the guys that really stood out in that first game is their goaltender, Garrett Metcalf. Now, he transferred from Mercyhurst. He also previously played at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. He had, I believe, over 40 saves in that first game. He is an Anaheim Ducks draft pick. I don't necessarily know that he's going to sign an NHL contract when things are all said and done in his collegiate career. But here's a guy that has experience. He's a graduate transfer. He's played college hockey. He actually played with Brett Riley's cousins, who both played at Mercyhurst. So he knows the Riley family to a certain extent. And the Riley family, of course, I should have mentioned this when I was talking about Brett. He's a third generation Division I college hockey coach. His grandfather, Jack, was the head coach at Army for years. His father, Rob, was the head coach at Army for years. Now his uncle, Brian, is the coach at Army. And Jack also was the head coach of the first ever Olympic gold medal team for USA in 1960. So, I mean, it is in his blood. And what he's done so far with this program is incredible. I don't know yet. We have to see once they get in the teeth of their schedule, and they're playing mostly against Atlantic hockey competition, which, is kind of the one of the lower tier conferences in college hockey. But still, I mean, you look at the way that, they have plenty of quality teams in that conference as well. So I'm excited to see what LIU does. I think that they're going to be able to continue to recruit quality players, especially from Long Island and from New York, and people that want to stay close to New York City. That's one thing that they can offer that a lot of other programs cannot. And I think that they have a real opportunity to do something special over these next few years. It's just going to take a little while to get them going.
Yeah, we got a couple of friends on that team, so we wish them the best of luck. I mean, it's cool as a new program. There's a lot of unknowns, but when you win your first game in overtime, that's just got to get everybody psyched and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe it, and I think it's what a storybook opening to the season, and I really think that the sky's the limit for that program, and they certainly the players that I've talked to that are playing there, the motivation and the focus that they have as a group. It's not just that a lot of these guys were passed over by other colleges, so it's kind of like that Golden Knights mentality where It's like, hey, we were passed over, let's play with a chip on our shoulder, and it's been great to see that when you can convert that into a positive energy, that's pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes having no pressure is a very good way to go. When there's no anyone going, oh, this team's got to be amazing. You come out firing, and everyone's, well, there you go. But yeah, Brendan, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they won an OT, but the story after the game was that video. All three sets of their goaltenders had phenomenal pads. So I mean, their color scheme, their color scheme really works in that sense too. So even if they don't finish with a winning record, they're winning in that sense. But
they're always going to look good.
Yeah, they are. And you briefly touched on Michigan in the first question. They started off 4-0. They look really good. They have a lot of talent on that team. Do you think they're legitimate Frozen Four contenders, and how well do you think they're going to finish this year?
Well, I do think they are legitimate Frozen Four contenders. I mean, it is really difficult for young teams to win and they have 10 freshmen. And I mentioned a lot of the guys already, but really I think the most important player for them is not all of their freshmen. They're obviously hugely important, but it's their goaltender, Strauss-Mann. He's the captain, the co-captain of the team. He is a junior. He was one of the top goaltenders in the country last season. Legitimate, Mike Richter candidate for goaltender of the year again this year. He has been lights out so far in this season. He's a big reason. They showed against Arizona State that they can blow you out. They showed against, Wisconsin that they can also win the close games. Those are huge tests for them. I think the biggest tests are still ahead. I do still think, let's see how they do against Minnesota. Let's see how they do against a grinded out team like a Michigan State that is going to try to really clog things up in that rivalry atmosphere. There's a lot to look forward to. They're going to play Notre Dame this weekend, and Notre Dame has plenty of veterans in their group, and that's a tough team to play. So you kind of look at and see how are they going to handle that. But I think in terms of talent, in terms of depth, there are a few teams that can match them at this point. Thomas Bordeleau and Kent Johnson are two of the most skilled players in college hockey as true freshmen right now. They have made some incredible plays already this season. Owen Power and Cam York, Philadelphia Flyers first rounder 2 years ago, is now a sophomore. Are defensemen that could play for any team in the country and be their number one defenseman. So I think that the depth that they have as a group and the fact that they have the goaltending and they have a great coaching staff, I really do think that this is a team that not only could compete in the Frozen Four, but they are a legitimate national title contender. And there's still a long way to go. We have to hope that the season gets completed. But the way that I've seen them play, this is a Michigan team that is incredible. It's one of the best recruiting classes that I've personally seen since I've been covering college hockey, and that goes back, over 10 years. And it's hard to find another situation where you could be that confident in your young class of freshmen like they should be.
And
no, go 7.
And they're that young, which means that they'll be competing for the next couple of years unless any of them go, get out of school early. But this is a program that could be good, the top dogs for a couple of years with such a young group.
Yeah, and they still have a great recruiting class next year. So they have Luke Hughes and Mackie Samoskevich, who are two guys that are not at Michigan yet. And Luke Hughes is the brother of Jack and Quinn Hughes, and he's looking like he could be a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. Samoskevich looks like a first rounder, and those guys aren't even there yet. So I anticipate that they will lose some of these guys, like a Matty Beniers maybe, or an Owen Power. Maybe they're one and done type players or two and done type players. But then you've got that next wave coming, and there are just so many other players that the depth is going to allow them to shine. And yeah, I do think that they have something special going for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's not the typical hockey powerhouse when you think of NCAA schools, but they're obviously building a great program there, and they're going to be very competitive. Chris, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.